Who's the guy with all the dirt on Hollywood's biggest scandals?
I'm AJ Benza, and I'll flip you. Heads I win, tails you lose.
What does he know?
Let me tell you something. You haven't lived until you've been thrown out of an orgy for being too funny.
Sometimes you gotta go to an author, TV host, and bigger-than-life personality to learn fame is a bitch.
I'm staying right here with another pedophilia show. If you don't like it, leave. Gotta do it. I mean, what the hell is more important than outing the creeps who permanently harm or kill little kids? I'm amazed that that podcast last year, The Whereabouts of Richard Simmons, how'd that get so popular? A 1980s fitness guru decides to become a shut-in, and people go wild over the show. Who gives a shit? I listened for 5 minutes, maybe 10. They made it seem like it was the most important manhunt since Osama bin Laden. For a few weeks, I get it. Definitely a hot podcast, that's for sure. But the big deal about it, I don't get. I knew the old queen was fine, but these pedophilia shows where we out the perverts who may have had a hand in destroying innocent kids' childhoods and lives. This is where you got to be. Now, having said that, I don't think we can do another show and not tear into the Podesta brothers. I don't like them. I don't like going to D.C. We're taking a trip. We got to do this. These guys were once two of the most important men in Washington, D.C., if not the creepiest. But I tell you, now the Pizzagate rumors are getting legs again. As crazy as this story is, I'm going to prove to you there are some things that are going to creep you out. And some things have emerged that kind of show the brothers have what any rational person would call an unhealthy appreciation of other people's young kids. And maybe how they even look cuter when those kids are posed alongside or under or servicing or being serviced by a beast. A hairy beast. I'll tell you about it. It's disgusting. Wait till I tell you about their disgusting art collection, too. Hollywood and Washington, where power is a must and fame is a bitch.
I spend a lot of time in the backyard, and in '09 it was me, your fire pit, that accidentally started a wildfire when one of my embers landed on dry brush.
Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com, brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
First thing I want to do is talk about a website that's been keeping me up at nights, reading till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. If you like portions of a couple of recent shows, it might be because some of the blind items I referred to largely came from a site called Crazy Days and Nights, or CDAN, as it's referred to. Now, I forgot all about this site. I saw it like 2 or 3 years ago. I found it fascinating. But 3 weeks ago, somebody told me, hurry up and get back on Crazy Days and Nights. Him is back. I'm like, who? Him. I'd forgotten all about him. Let me explain what this is all about. The site, Crazy Days and Nights, is great for the guilty pleasure of reading a blind item and then joining a community of commenters who try and reveal who the item is about. And the commenters are really good at doing their detective work. Some items have 1 or 2 people. Some have 6, 7, or 8. Some go back to last night. Some are legendary stories that go back decades. So when some of the people who listen and subscribe to Fame is a Bitch reached out to me, I went and got back on the site and started reading. And before I knew it, I was hooked. I was hooked on everything there. There's stories that you might have heard of, some you've never heard of. Like the story I did a week ago or so about the MTV comic who beat up a Heidi Fleiss girl and ended up beaten up and hanging from the Hollywood sign. Okay, that was from CDAN. But there are other stories that I did know something about. So I told a friend about CDAN after I was on, and he called me back 3 days later, practically listless from reading the site. He goes, "What did you do to me? This is my new porn." I said, "I know." So the blinds are written by a guy who says he's an entertainment lawyer, and he goes by Enty, E-N-T-Y. And whenever him, that's H-I think 3 M's after that, H-I-M-M-M, whenever him posts something, the fans go crazy because for a long, long time, people have believed that him is Robert Downey Jr. writing under a pseudonym. And it kind of makes sense if you read the way he writes. It sounds like him talking. And I've been told that some people think Enty is Jake Bloom, the powerful entertainment lawyer. But I haven't met anybody who knows this for sure. But whoever these guys are, they obviously know a shit ton more than most of us because it's obvious they're in the business. They're not riding alongside of it. They're in it big time. So I'll credit CDAN when necessary. Fans of the site are very protective, very loyal. When I laid out some blinds and didn't credit the website, I had NT and a couple hundred fans of his rip into my ass. So I said, look, I'll give NT credit. I'll give the website credit. No problem. But CDAN isn't the only website breaking a ton of sexual harassment stories or passing along pedophilia innuendo. Imagine my shock when I heard that IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, the place where people go to check on actors' TV and movie credits, for God's sake, had posted a list of alleged pedophiles working in the business. I was in shock. I still don't know or understand who put that up or how it stayed up. So I saw it last Sunday night, and it was gone by the morning. So whoever did this has a pair of balls on them, man, because there it was. I want to say 50, I think it was 50 names listed. And number one wasn't even Kevin Spacey. Number one was Steven Spielberg. There it was. Boom. Name in bold caps. Color photo of Steve smiling. Everybody was smiling in these pictures. It was unreal. And the minute I saw it, I scanned it as fast as I could. I just felt like my phone was going to blow up or I was going to get a virus. It just felt illegal. It didn't feel right to keep looking. I can't explain it, but I knew I was looking at something that wasn't supposed to be seen. You get me? So as I'm staring at it, nearly everybody on that list was probably on the phone with their lawyers or publicists or both demanding they get this down. I can't tell you the order after I saw Spielberg. I know I saw Woody Allen, James Woods, Jared Leto, Oliver Stone. Bryan Singer was number 2. Kevin Spacey was 3, I think. But damn, there were so many people, and you'll never see it again. And no publications wrote about this. Hollywood Reporter, nothing. Deadline, nothing. What the fuck is that about? This is a story. But I got to admit, my hands started to shake a little bit when I saw David Geffen and Barry Diller. That felt scary. Mainly because those guys, whether they're actually pedophiles or not, those are the kind of guys who can make you disappear. They can make sure your car is run off the PCH when they want it to be. So the last few nights I went into Hollywood, I didn't drive my fucking car. I Ubered. I ain't getting killed like that. But, you know, seeing Geffen's name isn't that surprising. There's been chatter about him for years, but never this widespread. I'll tell you a story. Even when I was young and handsome, and there was a day that happened, I never thought of how or why that there might be some guys who I'd appeal to. But a funny thing happens once you start to appear on TV, you get fan mail. And lo and behold, I found out that I was actually good looking enough to get a lot of mail from gay guys. Even a couple of gay guys in prison wrote me once. Now, I didn't think much of this until I got out to L.A. in 1997. But listen, I'm sorry to say, and I'm sure there are some of you who will not accept this upcoming story, but I got to tell you, a Hollywood mogul kind of wanted me. And that makes me allowed to say fame is a bitch. So I think it was 1995. I kept taking trips into L.A. I was still a journalist for the Daily News, but I definitely wanted to do some stuff on TV, maybe movies. I needed an agent. How do you get an agent? So what happened was I started dating a girl or seeing a girl from time to time who actually had a job working downstairs at the William Morris Agency answering phones. I thought, this is a great thing for me. So, of course, at one point, I convinced her to let me upstairs to meet some agents. And she did. She looked the other way, and I went upstairs. And now I'm in the office, and I'm looking for a door that's open so I can just appeal to somebody to sign me. And I walk in, and I see a door open, and the name of the door is Mark Itkin. Itkin was big agent, syndication agent. He's still big, but I knew that's the guy. So I walk in unannounced, and I go, hey, man, I'm the gossip columnist that's going to break out. You got to sign me now. He goes, who? Oh, hey, wait, you're AJ Benz. I said, yeah. What are you doing here? I said, nothing. I want to talk to you. He goes, do we have an appointment? No, we don't. Look, don't get mad at the girl downstairs, but you and I got to talk. You got to sign me. I'm going to do some good shit. And he had a good laugh about it, thank God. Didn't call security, which has happened to me multiple times out here. But look, he ended up signing me. Sometimes that's what it takes. Just a crazy, ballsy move like that. It worked in my case. So Mark and I have lunch. He signs me. I go back to New York. I'm very happy. And I would come out to L.A. frequently. And when I came out, I'd sometimes work out with Mark at Gold's Gym in Hollywood at 6 a.m. Mark is a big, buff dude, great guy, also gay. Huge guy, muscle-bound guy, gay guy, great guy. And we'd work out at 6 a.m. One morning I'm at Gold's, and I'm doing arms because we all do arms every day. And I see in the mirror somebody behind me, this little guy, unassuming, but I know his face. And it's David Geffen. And he's getting closer to me. And I go, holy shit, Geffen's going to say, is he going to hit on me? Sure enough, he goes, do you usually work out this early? And I didn't know what to say. I said, no, I'm just here. I'm here with Mark Itkin, my agent. We're just having a quick workout. Oh, great. Nice to meet you. And he walks away. And I thought, you know what? What is he doing here? The guy owns an $85 million house in Malibu. Why is he working out in Hollywood at 6 a.m.? And then I go, wait a minute, he's cruising. I knew the guy liked men. I never thought he'd like me. And to be honest, I have a hard time thinking he likes young boys. I think he likes guys in their 20s to 30s, if I could be really honest. But what do I know? But I guess that day still shocks me. And I'll tell you what else shocks me. I'm shocked to see Spielberg's name at the number one spot on IMDb's list of suspected pedophiles. It points to a couple things. For one, it points to maybe he's up there because he's worked with so many kids who've had problematic lives or mysterious deaths. You know, he worked with Drew Barrymore on E.T., Corey Feldman on Goonies and Gremlins, and he is partners with Geffen at DreamWorks. But the mysterious death of Heather O'Rourke, the kid from the Poltergeist franchise, that sort of stands out. And her death just might be the absolute worst fatality for a child star I've ever heard of. She died at 13 from shit that 13-year-olds do not die from. She was in Poltergeist 1 at 5 years old. Then she did 2 and 3 before she died. It turns out when she put her hands on the TV and said, they're here, maybe she meant pedophiles and not evil spirits. Anyhow, I got caught up in a blind item on CDAN the other day that really depressed the shit out of me. And it essentially took us back to the mid-'80s, or when O'Rourke was a very little girl. Back when there was no internet, very few mobile phones, and back then child actors were on the set for hours at a time, left alone, and who the hell knows what kind of shit went down. Supposedly, a pervy producer came up with the idea of a tween show that wouldn't cast any adults and just rotate a cast of tweens, and it would make a fortune. And the faster they taped, the more time they'd have to molest the kids that'd be hanging out on the set. So what readers of the site have surmised is that it looks to have been a show called Rocky Road. And on a particular day, a very young girl who already had a hit film under her belt showed up to read her part, and supposedly some executives flocked to the studio that day to see her. The blind also says this little girl already had been molested at 5 or 6. Those clues fit Heather O'Rourke to a T, having done Poltergeist 1 at 5 and worked on Rocky Road. And here's where shit gets really sad and depressing, and I really hope not true. But the facts are hard to ignore. Anyhow, the episode took place on a beach, so the little girl was wearing a bikini and walking back and forth on the Hollywood soundstage, and she couldn't see through the strong lighting what was taking place in the first couple of rows of the audience. But it was allegedly some executives already rubbing themselves, doing the old Pee Wee Herman. But according to a tween actress on the set that day, she says shit got really dark. She didn't see what happened, but she speaks about a little girl getting very injured and the producers having to call a set medic, and everything went haywire. Allegedly, somebody had inserted something inside the girl, and it was gruesome. An ambulance came. The parents of the girl were told some bullshit story, and that story basically ended up killing the girl because the parents believed what the executives said, whatever they said. So 2 weeks later, the show is finished shooting all its episodes, and there were no more orders for more shows. But was this the alleged abuse that Heather O'Rourke suffered at the hands of insane pedophiles? I don't know. Because It was initially reported she died of Crohn's disease, but that turned out to be bullshit. Because when she got gravely ill one day in 1988, she got airlifted to a hospital where she died during surgery to repair an acute bowel obstruction, which was caused, they said, by congenital stenosis of the intestine, which got complicated by septic shock. So we're told. But a bowel obstruction can be caused by a rectal hematoma or scarring from repeated abuse, which is a nice way, or I'm sorry, a sad way of saying somebody had their way with that poor little girl. And unfortunately, that sounds more likely in the case of a little Hollywood child star dying. Listen, I'm not saying Seth MacFarlane is clairvoyant, but there was an episode of American Dad entitled The Goonies Are Good Enough, in which a character is dressed like Steven Spielberg, and he gets behind a kid dressed like one of the characters from The Goonies, and he bends the kid over, and he mimics sex. It's really creepy, given that MacFarlane has placed multiple clues about Hollywood sex abuse in all of his shows. But just because Spielberg discovered her and worked with her on Poltergeist, and now he's suddenly shot up to #1 with a bullet on the IMDb molester list, does that mean he helped kill Heather O'Rourke? Of course not. But this is where we're at in Hollywood in 2017 AH, after Harvey. This is Fame is a Bitch. Listen, I don't want to think so many evil thoughts. I really don't. I know from reading a bunch of news stories and going deep into some websites, it certainly looks like all the shit we're hearing is true. And everybody I've ever looked up to in the film industry or television industry is guilty or dead or abused or labeled or accused or maligned or shunned or in a compromising position that their careers may never rebound from. That's not the Hollywood I grew up dreaming about and ended up pursuing. I have a beautiful memory of my childhood that I don't want to become tainted. There was a day on Long Island in 1975 where me and my friends, Chico, Mike Agavino, Kenny Wood, Mike Gallagher, all waited on a line in Babylon that must have been 100 yards long just so we could see the movie called Jaws. And since we were all kids who lived on the water, it was going to be a film that would make us think twice before we ever set foot back in the Great South Bay. Those boys, the Bay, that movie were such a big part of my boyhood. I don't want to think Steven Spielberg had more of a killer instinct with child actors on a film set than that mechanical shark had off the waters of Massachusetts. This is one of those instances where I hope the make-believe world of Hollywood is a sham and an illusion, and not a place where people and their dreams come to die. I would hope that this is one of those times where people who love the magic of this town can accept that the rumors are not believable. But instead, what is always believable and forever certain is that fame is a bitch.